What is good, YouTube? And we are here with our final video before the World Cup is officially starting. It starts tomorrow as I am recording this. And in this video, we're going to be talking about the top 5 players with the most pressure to perform at this World Cup. Now, I thought really long and hard about this list. I've watched even other people's videos like Leah's and Faisal who have made their own list. And I've kind of taken what they said and with my own thoughts, I made my own list. A lot of people had the same players around the same spot. But with mine, I really thought about it. I probably reorganized some players where in a lot of other people's lists, they'd probably be a lot lower or a lot higher. So without further ado, let's get started. Before we start, I do have an honorable mention that I do want to mention in this video. He could not fit into my top 5 because I think the rest of the players do have more pressure than this player, but I think he is worth mentioning. So my honorable mention is Harry Kane. Obviously, Harry Kane has had a spectacular season, probably the season of his career. I mean, we all know Harry Kane is probably one of the front runners for the Ballon d'Or this year, if not the current front runner to win it. They made it quite far in the Champions League as well, losing to PSG, the eventual winners of the Champions League. But the reason why I put Kane in this list is because there is a pressure that comes when playing for England, especially when you are the leading goal scorer for England all time. And if we think about how Harry Kane has performed for England in the last couple of World Cups and Euros, in all honesty, I don't think Harry Kane was that great in the last Euros. And in the last World Cup against France in the quarterfinal, he did get 2 penalties. One of them he converted, and the second one he blasted out of the stadium. Yes, you can argue Harry Kane might not even be the actual best player on England. You could argue maybe even Declan Rice, Jude Bellingham, but if you really think about it, as the main man for England, it has to be Harry Kane. Most of the weight falls on his shoulders, especially if this England team doesn't do well and if he doesn't perform at the highest level possible. Because we know what the guy is capable of, especially this season with Bayern Munich. It's just a matter if Kane can translate those performances with Bayern this year, having the season of his life and helping England to win the World Cup this year. Now, I wouldn't say Harry Kane is the only one to be at blame if England doesn't do well. Obviously, there's some pressure on Thomas Tuchel as well, his first international tournament with England. And of course, the controversial decisions of him not calling up Phil Foden, Cole Palmer, and Trent Alexander-Arnold. I think this is the first time where we can go into the World Cup with England and be confident that they have a world-class manager. There is no excuses. There is no Southgate if they wanted to blame it on him. Thomas Tuchel has picked selectively on the players that he has wanted, and Harry Kane, the main man of England, he needs to perform at this World Cup, and that's why I have him as my honorable mention. Not to mention, because of the great season that he's had and the fact that he is the frontrunner of the Ballon d'Or, him winning the World Cup or performing well at the World Cup could literally make or break his Ballon d'Or case. Okay, now entering the top 5. At number 5, I have Neymar Jr. Now, a lot of people had Neymar Jr. a lot higher on this list. Leah's actually had Neymar, I believe, at 1 actually. I think Neymar was the top of his list. Of course, besides Neymar and the name and the fame that he has for Brazil, the legacy that he's built for the Brazilian national team and how much he's loved by Brazilians all around the world. Before Neymar was officially called up, there was a lot more pressure on Carlo Ancelotti. As we all know, Neymar was announced on the Brazilian national team on the very last day. It was almost a 50-50 coin toss, the fact that if he was going to get called up. All the pressure would have been on Carlo Ancelotti if Neymar was not called up, because if Brazil didn't perform at the World Cup and Neymar didn't get called up, all the blame would have went to Carlo right away because he didn't call up Neymar, and everyone would have said, what if you decided to pick Neymar? Now that Ancelotti has called up Neymar, all that pressure that was on Carlo Ancelotti has now gone to Neymar. Yes, Neymar at the moment right now is injured. We don't know when he's going to return into the World Cup, whether that is the first 2 games or the 3rd game of the group stage. And the reason why there's so much pressure on Neymar to perform, besides just his legacy for Brazil and what he's done, is because he was chosen ahead of the likes of João Pedro. Now, you may have your own thoughts about João Pedro, and in terms of his stats, he scored over 20 plus goals for Chelsea this year as their leading striker. And you may have your own criticisms about João Pedro and how Chelsea performed this year. If we're going by stats and the fact that he is a striker, he performed for Chelsea. Yes, Chelsea might have underperformed this year, but in no means does that mean that João Pedro did not deserve to be called up for the Brazilian national team. Because João Pedro didn't get called up and Neymar did, all the focus now goes to Neymar. Did Neymar deserve to actually get called up for the World Cup? Or was Neymar called up due to the pressure that Carlo Ancelotti would have faced if he didn't call him up? And because of that, that is why I have Neymar at 5th. And I don't even know if Neymar is going to be playing a lot of minutes because he's basically injury prone. Carlo Ancelotti might have to take some serious precautions when playing Neymar, might only have to play him till halftime or might have to bring him on as a sub. But with those minutes that Neymar is on the field, he is expected to perform and make an impact, especially when you are called up over the likes of João Pedro, who probably should have been called up and could have been entering his first World Cup. But because the whole nation of Brazil pretty much vouched for Neymar and said Neymar deserves to be at this World Cup, all the pressure now goes back to Neymar, and that is why I think he has to be performing at this World Cup. At number 4, I have Vinicius Jr. Now, Neymar and Vinicius Jr. was a very, very close call for me. I think I genuinely had Neymar at 4 and Vinicius at 5. The reason why I have Vinny over Neymar in terms of the most pressure to perform at this World Cup is because Vinny is technically in his prime. I do think Vinny would have faced a lot more pressure if Neymar didn't get called up, because at that point, you are, without a doubt, the main man of this Brazil team. You have been the main man the last couple of years for Brazil, and ever since Neymar hasn't played for Brazil and hasn't been a part of the actual squad, Brazil has looked at Vini to be the main man of this team for the foreseeable future. He was supposed to be the guy to pick up the pieces after Neymar had left and be the next man up. And ever since then, Vini's international career has been very, very tragic. Think about numbers and the statistics for Brazil, they're genuinely awful. Before the last couple seasons, every time you saw Vini in a Real Madrid shirt, he would be performing to the highest levels, especially in the Champions League. But every time Vini stepped onto the international stage and put on the Brazilian jersey, he would be unrecognizable. The reason why I think Vini has just a bit more pressure than Neymar is because of the minutes that Neymar will probably play at the World Cup, meaning it'll probably be a lot less. Vini is going to be a consistent starter for this Brazilian national team. You might say Rafinha's been the better player the last 2 seasons and should be considered the best player on the team. But if we're talking about the last 5 years, Vini's been considered the next player to step up after Neymar. This World Cup is huge for Vini's career because at the moment right now, he is still on negotiations for his contract renewal at Real Madrid. In the last 2 years, he's genuinely been half the player that he was in his Ballon d'Or snub season. These last 2 years, Vini has been very inconsistent. You may have your arguments on whether that might have been Mbappe who played a part in that, and whether that Mbappe-Vini fit is a reason why he's been underperforming. He has to perform at this World Cup for the future of his career and his status as a Brazilian player in the national team. At number 3, the player with the most pressure going into the World Cup is Cristiano Ronaldo. This is the last and best chance Ronaldo's ever going to get to win a World Cup. If you see that Portugal starting lineup in team sheet, they may have probably the best team on paper other than France. That midfield is easily the best midfield in the world if we're talking about internationally. Bruno Fernandes, Vitinha, João Neves. You have Nuno Mendes, easily without a doubt the best left back in the world. And Portugal's defense is really solid as well. There is no weaknesses I see in this team. Ronaldo is easily without a doubt one of the top 3 players of all time and has cemented his legacy. Whether you have him at 2 or 3, that is a different conversation. So I don't think he needs the World Cup to cement himself because his career has already been cemented. But in a lot of people's eyes, the argument will always be, what did he do at the World Cup? Now, to me, the only thing on Ronaldo's resume that really stands out is the fact that he has 0 knockout goals at the World Cup. If we're talking about the greatest goal scorer of all time, someone who is on pace to score 1,000 career goals, that player should not be having 0 knockout goals in the world's biggest tournament. To me, personally, I don't have the expectation that he needs to win the World Cup. He just needs to perform. A lot of people have their criticisms. Why does a 41-year-old Ronaldo get into the starting lineup? And with how football is evolving and in terms of what the striker role is asked of in terms of pressing and doing more defensive work, yes, he's getting up there in age and 41 years old, but he has to make his argument the fact that there is no one else that can start over me. Gonzalo Ramos had his moment in the World Cup scoring a hat-trick, but after that, Gonzalo Ramos started against Morocco and they still ended up losing. Yes, Ronaldo came on as a sub against Morocco and didn't do that much. A lot of people argue that if Ronaldo started against Morocco, he might have scored against them. So this is genuinely the last dance for Ronaldo. Messi won the World Cup and already cemented himself as one of the greatest players at the World Cup. So the only thing I ask of Ronaldo is to perform at this World Cup and score some knockout goals, because you cannot end your career as probably the greatest goal scorer of all time and to have 0 knockout goals at the World Cup. At number 2, with the most pressure to perform at the World Cup, I have Ousmane Dembele. Dembele coming off as winning 2 back-to-back Champions Leagues, arguably a top 3 player in that PSG team along with Kvaratskhelia and Vitinha. These last 2-3 years has genuinely changed Dembele's career, and everyone's perspective of Ousmane Dembele has now changed. Being a completely injury-prone winger at Barcelona, not fulfilling his destiny at Barca, being one of the most expensive transfers in Barca's history, to then being a back-to-back Champions League winner and then winning the Ballon d'Or. Now, the reason why I say Dembele has the second most pressure at the World Cup is because can he continue this internationally? Internationally, I don't think he's been as good as he's ever been at the current club level. Because in 2018, when France did win the World Cup, Dembele was not part of the lineup. Shams was making lineups without Ousmane Dembele. And in 2022, no one's going to forget this. In the World Cup final, Dembele was hooked off at halftime. There's just moments in Dembele's international career where you can pinpoint that he's clearly underperformed. Now it's just a matter of his current club level performances will continue into the World Cup, or will those international performances that he's had that's been disastrous those last World Cups continue to haunt him in this next World Cup. Dembele is also one of the front runners to win the Ballon d'Or just because of his accolades that he's won this season. Winning Champions League, winning Ligue 1, winning Ligue 1 best player of the season despite only having 11 starts. In terms of his accolades this season, he has it all. He genuinely just has to perform at this World Cup to be the front runner of the Ballon d'Or. Now, finally, on to my number one. The player who has the most pressure at this World Cup is no other than Kylian Mbappe. I think almost everyone has him at number one, and the reasons are quite obvious. PSG has just gone and won back-to-back Champions Leagues after you have left their club and have been trying to win a Champions League the last 7 years with them. And the season before you joined Real Madrid, they won the Champions League. And after you joined them, you went trophyless the last 2 seasons. By no means am I diminishing Mbappe's international career. Mbappe has the chance to be the greatest international player of all time. And in this World Cup, he could break Klose's record of the most goals scored in the World Cup at 16. Mbappe is only 5 away from breaking the record, and he's at 12 goals in just 2 World Cups. Mbappe is now entering his 3rd World Cup. His first World Cup, he won it at 18 years old, and the second World Cup, he made it to the World Cup final, scoring a hat-trick. So his World Cup resume is quite impressive. But again, the reason why he has the most pressure is because he needs to remind everyone of who he is. While other players the last 2 seasons have gotten the spotlight, like Lamine Yamal, this season Kvaratskhelia, and of course Ousmane Dembele, Mbappe needs to put his name back onto the world stage by showing everyone why he is the player that he is. He also needs to show everyone that if a team is built correctly around him, he can perform and easily be the best player in the world. And this is his chance to wipe those conversations away. He's been scapegoated as the problem at Real Madrid when clearly there's other problems that need to be addressed as well. So this World Cup is huge for Mbappe to show everyone why he can still be that player that everyone thinks he is. Let me know what's your thoughts on this list. Let me know who you guys have as number one, who has the most pressure at the World Cup. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I'm out. Peace.